This summer, the North Florida Prescribed Fire Council lost Lane Green, one of our longtime steering committee members and a legendary supporter of prescribed fire. Lane was a dedicated leader in supporting land stewardship and conservation, particularly in North Florida and the Red Hills region. And he was a former director of Tall Timbers Research Station in Tallahassee. And so now we have Dr. Kevin Robertson from Tall Timbers, who will share a few words in memory of Lane.
Thanks so much, David. David asked me to do the impossible task of having 5 minutes to memorialize Lane Green, who sadly died on August 15th of this year, as David said. I'm sure that there are very few people at this meeting who didn't know Lane, and many of them knew him very well for decades. Within 100 miles of Tallahassee, I can never get the words "I work at Tall Timbers" off my lips without the person saying, "Do you know Lane Green?" Even those who never met him knew his distinctive face and his voice on public service announcements, educating the public about the benefits of prescribed fire. And throughout the Red Hills and through his Red Hills reports on WCTV that a lot of you probably remember. Lane was born in Tallahassee in 1947, and he spent a lot of his time on the Green family farm north of Tallahassee, where he grew up seeing prescribed fire close and personal and seeing all of its benefits. His family had deep roots in Tallahassee going way back to the settlement days before the Red Hills became a region of quail hunting estates. He went to Leon High, where my daughters just graduated, and he was a captain of the basketball team and played baseball and was senior class president. He went to FSU, where he played baseball and was a star pitcher, not surprisingly, always in the lead, always in the spotlight. He was a distinguished military graduate from ROTC and went on to get his master's in physical education and education administration. Lane served in the military for 2 years, where he was commissioned as first lieutenant and served as a baseball coach for West Point. He came back close to home and began his career at Grady County Schools as a teacher, administrator, and then assistant superintendent for instruction from 1972 to 1980. And he obtained an additional degree in administration and supervision supervision at Valdosta State, learning to become a teacher and preacher that we know so well. In a big turn, he accepted the position of executive director of the Tallahassee Junior Museum, which has become the Natural History Museum, in 1980. And he was instrumental in bringing much of Florida's native wildlife to Tallahassee that it didn't have before he got there. But he remained always a teacher of all things wild in our region. In another important turn, Lane accepted the position as the director of the newly formed Red Hills Conservation Association in 1990. This organization was quickly joined with Tall Timbers Research Station with Lane Green as the executive director, bringing in many board members from the quail hunting community and arguably making Tall Timbers what it is today, a modern and relevant conservation research station and land conservancy. What became the Tall Timbers Land Conservancy has preserved well over 120,000 acres on private land in the Red Hills region, largely under Lane's leadership. There's no way to begin to list his contributions to prescribed fire. He was institutional in establishing the North Florida Prescribed Fire Council, the Georgia Prescribed Fire Council, and the Association of Prescribed Fire Council, National Association. He led numerous fire education campaigns and events and summits, and was at the table for developing all sorts of policies and regulations in favor of prescribed fire, as so many of you know. Lane retired in 2012, but was always around, advocating, advising, and not missing too many quail hunts. No doubt he will go down with names like Stoddard and Neal and Comeric as a leader who helped change the image of fire in our country and in our world. Lane hired me in 2001, and I felt it a privilege to be a part of Tall Timbers under his leadership. He was a bulldog, and I was always happy to be on his side and not the other side, although I received some no-nonsense discipline from him a couple times myself. But one of the things that struck me and a lot of others about Lane was that he never gave up being himself to accomplish such great things that he did. Whether he was talking to a senator, or the chief of the Florida Forest Service, a billionaire landowner, a local land manager, his employees, or just old friends or baseball fans from around town, he was always the same. Real, personable, enthusiastic like nobody else, full of energy and life, and usually smiling under his big gray mustache and his gleaming blue eyes. He was an institution unto himself, the kind of presence you expect to always be there. And he will certainly be missed. Thanks for the opportunity, David, and look forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for those kind words, and appreciate you sharing some personal memories of Lane and helping us to all reflect on his contributions to the region and the time that we had to spend with him. So thank you.